Hi, and welcome to another session of Florida's Great Northwest. I'm your host, Larry Sassano. I'm the president of Florida's Great Northwest. And my special guest today is Neal Wade. Welcome, Neal.
Larry, it's great to be here. Looking forward to it.
Good. Me too. This is, Neal is the executive director of the Bay County Alliance, and I've known Neal quite a number of years now. I'd like to just share a little bit of Neal's background with the audience, if I may. Neal, as I said, is executive director of the Bay County Alliance, and he's also recently the chairman of the Public Affairs Research Council of Alabama, which is a research group, past head of the Alabama Development Office, which is now the Alabama Department of Commerce, past president of the Economic Development Partnership of Alabama, past president of Florida's Great Northwest, and chairman of the Aerospace Alliance, Four-State Alliance, which we'll talk about in a second, and a graduate of Stanford University. So you've got some great credentials, Neal, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the show today.
Larry, it only means that I've lived almost as long as you have, so that's what that means.
Yes, we're very close, you're right. We're going to talk about regionalization, but we're also going to talk about Neal's organization and about, Florida's Great Northwest. So let me just, like I started out with this show, when I had Bentina on the show from Gulf Power, talk about the mission real quick of Great Northwest. 16 county regional organization to market the region. Branding, strategic marketing, and educating our leadership on what economic development is and how they can play a critical role. So with that in mind, we've got a good leader here. He's got the great experience. Let's talk about regionalization and how you see it, Neal.
I was involved almost 12 years ago in starting Florida's Great Northwest. Right. I was with the St. Joe Company.
Right.
And the purpose in doing that was to pull together this region as one entity. Florida is 5 states in one. It's not like Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi. It's really 5 different states. But the northwest part of this region really had not banded together to lobby Enterprise Florida to work on economic development together. So that was the mission of what we tried to do, was to pull everybody together, working together, recognizing that if something good happened in Walton County, it benefited Bay County in a positive way. Yeah. So you have to tear the walls down, and you have to recognize that if good things are going on in other counties, that's going to eventually benefit you.
I notice in your Bay County Alliance that you talk about regionalization, which I think is very important. So you're actually, what you preach is what you practice.
We work across county lines. I'm working with Ted Averett in Washington County right now on a project. Mm-hmm. We're working in Jackson County with Bill Stanton on a mega site project that's going to affect the whole region. I've worked over in Gulf County, worked in Walton County. We believe that if things happen good in those areas, the benefit to Bay County is going to be significant.
Absolutely. I remember a few years back when I was visiting Tallahassee and Jeb Bush was governor. Mm-hmm. And I brought in about 20 CEOs from the area. And we had this organization that was part of Okaloosa County, technical companies, manufacturers, and I sat next to the governor, and he said, "This is a great idea, Larry." He says, "Is this regional?" And I said, "Well, no, Governor, it's just Okaloosa County." And he looked at me very seriously and said, "You need to make this regional, Larry." And I never forgot that. So even in that concept, regionalization was very important.
And we're working across state lines. We're working with Southeast Alabama on this mega site project in Jackson County. And they have embraced that the mega site will be on the Florida side, the potential training center will be on the Alabama side. Everybody has come together in a way I've never seen that happen before. And that says a lot about all of our desires to get jobs, to do the ripple effect where if you get a large plant in one area, there are going to be suppliers that locate throughout the region. So it's going to benefit everyone.
Let's talk just a second about suppliers.
Yeah.
And we're working a project now with about 5 counties in the region. And the client is more interested right now in making sure that he could identify suppliers before he makes a decision to locate somewhere in this region. Suppliers are critical.
They are critical in the aerospace industry, they're critical in the automotive industry, they're critical in the defense industry. You're going to want to locate where you can have access to companies to be your suppliers and to supply the needs that you have. And this is not a region that's known, especially in the automotive industry, as having a great supplier base. So we think if we can put something that might be close to Alabama to access some of their suppliers in Georgia, then that's a benefit. But from an aerospace standpoint, we have a great depth of aerospace companies throughout Northwest Florida. So I think we can build off of that to benefit the entire region.
Well, let's talk about that, this Aerospace Alliance that you chair. How did it come about? What states does it involve? And what is really the motivation behind this alliance?
Well, I was Secretary of Commerce in Alabama, and Grace Swope was Secretary of Commerce in Mississippi.
Yeah.
And we were working together on Airbus. We knew it was going to go to Mobile at the time, but we were working across state lines to try to win that contract, the tanker contract for Airbus. So we were talking about how could we basically pull the 4 states together, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, to work together. And we came to realize this whole region from Louisiana to Florida is the 4th largest aerospace corridor in the world.
Really?
So we're building off of a strength there. And so then after we went out of office in Alabama and Gray came down here to Florida, Alabama ended up getting a different kind of Airbus project, which is going to have a multiplier effect throughout this entire region. We've grown from just focusing on Airbus, where now we focus on the entire aerospace industry in all 4 states. And in fact, we'll be having a summit for our 4 states in Huntsville, which has a tremendous space presence and a research park. And so we're moving a bit off the coast to begin to expand the focus of the Aerospace Alliance beyond just commercial aerospace into defense and in space.
Yeah, the growth of aviation aerospace industry and defense is tremendous. I mean, I think because of sequestration, people are thinking, well, you know, there's going to be a lot of cutbacks. There'll be some cuts, obviously, with the cut in the DoD dollars, but the industry itself is still growing. I see orders for like Airbus and Boeing coming in the near future very strong around the world.
Well, you know, South Mississippi is doing unmanned vehicles or unmanned aerospace. You've got the space industry. Commercial space is booming because of the growth in China, the growth in Asia, the number of planes that are being required. Defense is going to be impacted, but we are seeing other aspects of the aerospace industry grow a great deal.
You know, you talk a little bit about the unmanned air vehicle industry, another tremendous diversification of sectors that we probably should be tapping into in a big way in this region. You know, I know Bay County, Leon County, Okaloosa County, Santa Rosa, Escambia County, those counties have a lot to benefit from the growth of that industry sector.
Well, you know, we can obviously every day we hear the debate about drones and we hear about that being done, but the fact of the matter is they are being used, they are being developed, and there's no reason that we should not, in this region, focus on how we can get into that game. Bay County, my county, sits at the heart of 7 military bases.
Right.
Our military presence here is unprecedented in terms of the impact. We need to make sure that we're focusing on that and building on that.
Yeah, the military is always going to be our strength, you know, all services. And I think the growth in that industry, even though you see some potential change taking place in the next few years, in terms of the commercialization of that, particularly like with drones or unmanned vehicles, tremendous for this region. We need to capitalize and work as a region, as you said Mississippi's doing.
I think if any of the counties from my county over to Escambia County should have aerospace, should have defense, should have commercial space as part of their target industry, because I think we have so much to build off of that we ought to focus on.
Let's talk about the Airbus for a second. I mean, that's kind of pivotal in terms of our near growth here. How do you see that in terms of, is it going to be a major factor in our marketing efforts, do you think, in the next several years?
Airbus is making Mobile and that region the centerpiece of their manufacturing in the United States. Yeah. That is huge. I mean, that's like Seattle for Boeing. That's like Toulouse in France for Airbus there. That's huge. Yeah. We've got to make sure that we are letting potential suppliers for that project know that, let them look at Mississippi, let them look at Alabama, but look at Florida as well. Yeah. Let us all compete together. So I think if I'm Escambia, if I'm Santa Rosa County, I'm making that a centerpiece of what I'm doing simply because of geography. Yeah. You know, they're able to go after the tier 1 suppliers that close. Bay County's a little bit out of that region, but we're still going to focus on suppliers as well, because as that grows and matures to over 1,000 direct jobs at that plant, you're going to begin to see the growth in suppliers.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. You said 1,000 direct jobs. There'll be, we don't know how many indirect jobs are yet to grow.
The multiplier effect is about 3 to 1 in the aerospace industry. It's about 6 to 1 in automotive. So if you've got 1,000 direct jobs in the next 5 years that are going to Airbus, you can expect to have about 3,000 indirect jobs, and that doesn't, that's the suppliers. That doesn't include the dry cleaners, the restaurants, all of those things that are going to be impacted as well as people get better jobs. And that's what we're all about.
Absolutely.
Creating better jobs. You know, economic development is the process of creating wealth, and that's what we're trying to do.
You know, a couple weeks ago I was in Charleston, South Carolina, and right by the airport there is the new Boeing plant.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, what an impact that's having on that area already. It's huge. That to me is what's going to happen in our region as well once that facility with Airbus is built.
And South Carolina's doing a great job, and they're building off that. But they don't have the base, the aerospace base that we have from Louisiana to Florida. So just think of, if they're doing that with Boeing, what we can do with Airbus being in Mobile at the center of this region, what we can do to build off of in the next 5 to 10 years.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've got some trips planned in our marketing effort, and as you know, we've projected about 14 missions and consultant trips around the country and around the world, basically, with the Paris Air Show coming up in June. And that's Great Northwest's marketing effort in working with the 16 counties. What else in terms of aerospace, aviation, and Airbus are we looking at beside that? I mean, there's some shows that are there, some missions, and you're a firm believer of working eye to eye with the company at their headquarters. Talk about that for a second.
A lot of people are going to go to the Paris Air Show, and the Aerospace Alliance that I chair will have a big event there. So we'll have the opportunity as a 4-state region to interact with key aerospace executives. But the whole world's there. Right. What we want to do, and Governor Scott will be there, Gray will be there, we want them to meet with these companies and say, we would like to send a team from Northwest Florida to come in September or early October, come to your plant site. They want to see what you do, they want to meet you, and they want to introduce this region to your company so that when you're ready to make a decision about coming to the U.S., at least consider Northwest Florida. See, that we're not going to sell Northwest Florida. We're going to get in the game. We're going to say, look at Mississippi, look at Alabama, but definitely look at Northwest Florida, and then make your best business decision. So I think going and sitting down with them, visiting them, getting to know those companies, building those relationships is the best way to market this region.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. I don't think you can duplicate any better the eye-to-eye contact, sitting across from a CEO at their headquarters and talk to them about what our assets are in having their company look at us a little closer. There's no question about it. That is the best marketing that we could do.
Absolutely.
And I know that when you're at a show like Paris Air Show or the Farnborough Air Show, or some of the domestic aviation aerospace shows, for example, you're with thousands and thousands of companies oftentimes. So the difference is when you're one-on-one with a company, and you may not have but 3-4 appointments in a community where a lot of these companies are based. What do you look at in terms of the percentages of generating interest and activity by having that one-on-one contact as opposed to a major show?
I think by having that one-on-one contact, you get to know the company, they get to know you, they get to look you in the eye, they get to ask questions of us about our facilities, our industrial parks, what do we have, our education, our workforce. They get to ask direct questions. All you're trying to do is to stimulate enough of an energy between them and you that they come and visit you and put you into the mix.
Absolutely.
That's all you're trying to get accomplished. And then once you get in the mix, then you start trying to win, but you got to first get in the game.
Yeah. Well, it's a good plan, and I totally support it. Flexibility is another thing you're talking about. Yeah, we have set shows and missions that we're doing, but sometimes some of these pop up, and you've got to be flexible and able to address them and be there before your competition is there.
Well, I think Florida's Great Northwest is blessed with some great economic developers. You've got those at Go Power, those at Power South, those at the local level, and they're putting a lot of time and energy into helping you and supporting Florida's Great Northwest. So without that base of expertise we have at the local level and the corporate level, we'd have a hard time competing. But because we do have it, I think we're going to have a great year this year. I think we're going to get a lot of companies to say, I'm going to take a look at Escambia County. I'm going to look at Santa Rosa or Okaloosa, Walton or Bay, because I believe that they can do a good job for us and provide the workforce and provide the sites that we need.
From the first few missions and consultant trips you've already taken this year, I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from the companies and the consultants who are calling on about Northwest Florida. That's the first time I've seen a genuine, across-the-board, positive feeling about what we're doing and the recognition of what we're doing too.
Well, Florida's Great Northwest for years has had the objective of getting site consultants to come visit us. It's great to go to them because you got to do that.
Yeah.
But I was up for the Defense Alliance trip to
Right.
Washington a couple of weeks ago, and I had dinner 2 nights with consultants. And I remember one of them looking at me and saying, Neal, I've been to Orlando, I've been to Jacksonville, I've never been to Northwest Florida. And he's one of the key consultants in the country. And he said, I've got to get down and see what you're talking about. So the real objective is to eventually get them to come down here and smell it, feel it, see it, get to know us, and that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. I had the same experience when I was at the Industrial Asset Management Group. I met with some consultants there. Thanks to Enterprise Florida and coordinating this effort, and Great Northwest was one of the sponsors. And one of the consultants, after the dinner we had, came up to me and said, I haven't visited your area, and I want to go back there and see some areas I had not seen. And I said, when I get back, I will contact those individuals from those communities, and they will send you an invitation. That is critical, because if they're asking to visit and they want to be more knowledgeable about what's in our backyard, that's a great thing.
I think a lot of decision makers, consultants, companies, see our region somewhat as a playground. It's a place for spring break that's going on right now. Yeah. It's a place for vacation, and they don't realize the depth of aerospace, the depth of technology that's going on, the depth of logistics centers. There are a lot of call centers. There are a lot of things that are going on here from a business standpoint. They don't really know is there. And the only way we can get that across is for them to come down and see it firsthand, to feel it and see it and know this is a place that's interested in, and it's open for business. We're ready to do business. We want to do manufacturing. In Bay County, we've got some great technology companies that we're promoting that the world really doesn't know about.
Yeah. You know, I want to thank you and the Bay 80 Alliance for helping to coordinate that trip we took to Orlando to meet with our partners, Enterprise Florida. That was a very, very good trip. Talk a little bit about that, if you would.
Well, you know, we have to work with the state. I know in Alabama, when I was at the state level, you know, we spent a lot of time with those local economic developers because that's our bread and butter.
Yeah.
Enterprise Florida has a much bigger state to deal with, and they have really a small number of project managers. They need more project managers.
They do.
And I think the important thing for us was we went down to sit down with them and spend a couple of hours talking about their strategy, talking about our strategies. How can we work closer together? How can you get to know our area better? Because they are the lifeline to a lot of projects that come into the state. They come through the state and then come to us. So we want them to know we're here so that we get our share of looks at projects.
Well, you know, the feedback we got from them that day that we spent with them was tremendous. And I know that you are also promoting getting them up here to come, like you said, and look at our region a little closer. Some of them are new, and they haven't been up here before. Like the consultants, like the companies, we need to get them to look at our area here a little closer in terms of the technology that we've got available to them.
Because there's so few of them, and because Florida's so big, and because it's so different. You know, Northwest Florida is nothing like Miami.
Yeah.
You know, and so it is important that we get them here so that they can see that we do focus on certain aspects of economic development that maybe Miami and Jacksonville and others don't focus on. So it's a tough job for them, but the only way they're really going to understand us is, as you say, to come up here and visit us and get to know us.
You know, Neal, you've managed state organizations, and so you've seen diversity in terms of the economies and the size of the communities, the different focus of the communities. We've got a 16-county region here, which has 12, if you may, rural-type counties and 4 metro areas. Are we doing the best approach we can in order to benefit all of those counties, you think? That's a tough question.
It is a tough question because I think Florida's Great Northwest kind of lost its way several years ago when it had the grant, and I think it's now with your leadership, we are now trying to get our mojo back. Yeah. We're trying to get back our original mission to market this area. I'm one of those who believes that if Bay County, which is one of the larger counties, concentration areas, is successful, Gulf County is going to benefit because it's next door. It's a smaller rural county.
Yep.
And Jackson County, because of where it's located, and Washington County, they're on the interstate. They have something we don't have in Bay County. Yeah. So I do think that as we grow this region, as we promote this region, as Bay grows, as Escambia, as Walton, as all of these counties grow, the ripple effect will go into the rural counties and will help them see jobs as well.
I am totally in line with that, and I do believe that. You know, you're listening to Neal Wade, the Executive Director of the Bay County Alliance, and we've got time maybe for one more question. I'd like to do a little wrap up. I know it's gone by quickly, and I've had you talk a lot, but good thoughts, good ideas to move this region forward. You know, we're looked at in economic development, Neal, as generating those leads, generating those jobs. You know, we don't really create jobs, but
That's right.
You know, we work with the companies that do. Is there one thing, if you're working with a company, that you stress to them how important it is that they think more closely about looking at your area to locate or expand?
We've got to have sites, you've got to have incentives, so those are just part of it. But we stress in Bay County that our leadership, our elected and our private leadership, are all on the same page. They're all committed to growing Bay County in a very positive way. Yeah. So we make that as a commitment. But the thing I'm seeing the most that's coming up in projects now, where's your workforce? Show me how you're going to get the workforce for my aerospace company, for my technology company. Show me the plan, or show me where they are, or where the training program is. So I think the workforce issue And I know there's a task force that we're all involved in right
Yep.
now to move that forward. That is the most critical issue in economic development in Northwest Florida.
Yeah, I agree. And probably what we face in that area, workforce, is probably as critical to many communities around not only Northwest Florida, but around Florida and the Southeast, maybe the entire country. So I know we got just enough time for maybe a follow-up to that.
Yes.
How do we help companies generate and identify those individuals, the talent that they need in order to be able to take the next contract?
The key, I believe, is to making sure that we are matching what our business and industry in each of our counties are doing and saying and needing with our K through 12, our two-year college, our technical school, our four-year colleges. They all need to be aligned. They need to be compatible in the curriculum and what's being taught there. If I'm in Bay County and I'm promoting aerospace, I better be sure I've got aerospace curriculum and training going on to build that, or I'm not going to be able to get the projects that I think I'm going to get.
Absolutely. I think you hit it right on the nail on the head. We're going to talk in another session with some other gentlemen about that task force and what it's doing, and I know you're part of that task force as well. I hope you enjoyed the session. Neal Wade, Executive Director of the Bay County Alliance, and doing a great job. And Neal, thank you so much for being part of this, and thanks for the input and making this show what we hope it to be, and that is an innovation in terms of educating everybody about what we're doing out there when we're out there calling on companies. Thank you.
Larry, thank you very much.
Thank you, Neal.
Enjoyed it.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed today, and please join us again. I'm Larry Sassano, your host. Thank you.